Incheon, South Korea, September 12, 2025. The morning skies over Incheon International Airport carried both tension and relief as a Korean Air Boeing 747-8 I taxied to a halt on the runway. Inside the specially chartered jet were more than 310 South Korean workers, men and women who just a week earlier had found themselves caught in the middle of a sprawling US immigration raid that shook diplomatic and economic ties between Washington and Seoul. For hours, television crews, family members and government officials lined the arrival gates, watching as the massive aircraft rolled to its final stop. The homecoming was not just about people stepping off a plane, it was about an episode that has quickly turned into one of the most sensitive flashpoints in US-South Korea relations this year. The workers had been detained at a Hyundai-LG battery plant under construction in the US state of Georgia. The project, valued at billions of dollars, was part of Seoul's ambitious investment strategy in the United States, promising jobs, cutting-edge technology, and deeper economic interdependence between the two allies. But what unfolded was something entirely different. In a sweeping action, US immigration authorities raided the plant, detaining nearly 475 workers, most of them South Korean professionals, flown in to support the development. According to American officials, the raid was carried out under existing immigration law, targeting what they described as violations in visa and labor arrangements. The South Korean government, however, was stunned. Officials in Seoul called the event unexpected, alarming, and deeply damaging to trust. For many here, the sight of highly skilled engineers and technicians being rounded up, questioned, and kept in detention facilities was a humiliating and distressing spectacle. At Incheon, the atmosphere was charged with both sorrow and relief. Families clutched banners, waved flags, and held tightly to photographs as they waited for loved ones to appear through the terminal doors. The South Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs had confirmed that 310 workers would be flown back on the first repatriation flight, with additional flights scheduled in the coming days. Officials emphasized that the decision to bring the workers home was made not because of deportation orders, but because, as the ministry put it, they were in a state of shock and needed to recover on home soil. Government spokespersons reiterated that Seoul was committed to protecting the dignity of its citizens abroad, while also engaging in urgent discussions with US authorities to prevent a repeat of such incidents. South Korean Prime Minister Lee Myung stepped before cameras shortly after the flight landed. His remarks were clear, measured, but edged with frustration. Lee Myung said, "This episode has cast a long shadow over our investment projects in the United States. If Korean professionals cannot work safely and with dignity, then our future economic cooperation faces real risks." The statement carried weight far beyond the tarmac at Incheon. It was an unmistakable warning to Washington that South Korea's commitment to billions of dollars in industrial projects could not be taken for granted if its workers continued to face such treatment. Meanwhile, South Korea's Minister of Trade echoed the concerns, framing the matter as not just a humanitarian issue but an economic one. The minister said, "Our companies are partners in strengthening the US economy and its energy future. Incidents like this undermine trust and jeopardize strategic supply chains." Inside the terminal, some workers, visibly exhausted, spoke briefly to reporters before being escorted away by officials. One returning worker described the ordeal plainly. He said, "We were taken without warning. Many of us did not understand what was happening. The experience left us shaken." In Washington, US officials sought to downplay the diplomatic rift. A Department of Homeland Security spokesperson reiterated that the raid was carried out according to US law, citing the need to ensure compliance with work visas and labor standards. Still, the optics of detaining foreign professionals from a close ally created what some analysts described as a self-inflicted wound in US diplomacy. President Donald Trump, who has made a political point of tightening immigration enforcement, offered a blunt assessment. Speaking to reporters at the White House, he was quoted as saying, Trump said, "The law is the law. No one, not even workers from partner nations, is above it. We welcome investment, but it must be on our terms." The statement drew sharp criticism in Seoul, where many saw it as dismissive of South Korea's role as one of America's closest economic and security partners. The episode comes at a delicate time for US-South Korea relations. The two countries remain bound together by their mutual defence treaty, regular joint military exercises, and growing economic interdependence. Yet both sides are also navigating shifting political landscapes. For Seoul, the incident risks fueling domestic debates about whether its large-scale investments in the United States are truly worth the potential risks. For Washington, it adds another layer of complexity to managing immigration enforcement while maintaining goodwill with a critical ally in East Asia. Political analysts in Seoul noted that the timing of the raid could not have been worse. South Korea has been working to deepen cooperation with the United States on high-tech industries, particularly in the field of electric vehicle batteries, semiconductors, and clean energy. The Hyundai-LG project in Georgia was hailed as a flagship example of this partnership. Now, instead of headlines about innovation and opportunity, the project has become a case study in legal entanglements and diplomatic fallout. Behind the politics and economics are the personal stories of the workers themselves. Many were highly skilled technicians, engineers, and specialists brought in to help launch one of the largest battery manufacturing facilities in the United States. Several workers interviewed upon arrival described the fear and uncertainty they endured while in US detention centers. One middle-aged engineer still wearing his work jacket spoke quietly to local media. He said, "We felt like criminals even though we came to America to work legally. It will take time to recover from this experience." Another worker, a young woman in her 20s, echoed the sentiment. She said, "We were treated without respect. I hope this never happens again to any of our colleagues." South Korean officials have already begun consultations with their US counterparts to clarify the legal frameworks governing foreign professionals at large-scale industrial sites. The government is also considering whether to revise its own protocols for dispatching workers abroad, ensuring they have clearer protections in place. Prime Minister Myung has also indicated that the government will review ongoing investment commitments in the United States if similar incidents occur again. Myung said, "Our priority is the safety and dignity of Korean workers. No economic project can succeed if that principle is not respected." Beyond the bilateral tensions, the incident has sparked wider conversations across Asia. Commentators in Japan, China, and Southeast Asia have watched closely, noting the vulnerability of foreign workers in the United States and the potential risks of deepening investment ties. Some Chinese media outlets were quick to highlight the event as evidence of US unpredictability, using it to argue that reliance on Washington carries inherent risks. In Japan, newspapers pointed out the irony of the situation. While Washington calls for deeper partnerships in Asia to counterbalance China, it risks alienating its closest allies through domestic enforcement actions. The return of the workers marks only the beginning of what could become a protracted diplomatic and political debate. The immediate priority for Seoul is to ensure the well-being of those who have just returned home. But the broader question remains, how will this episode reshape the future of South Korea's economic cooperation with the United States? For now, the image of a Korean Air Boeing 747-8Y touching down at Incheon, filled with weary but safe citizens, will remain etched in public memory. It is a reminder that behind the grand strategies of nations, there are human lives caught in the cross-currents of law, policy, and politics. The sight of returning workers walking through the terminal gates, greeted by families in tears, underscored the profound emotional and national significance of the moment. The incident was more than just a labor dispute or a bureaucratic clash. It was a test of trust, sovereignty, and the dignity of citizens abroad. As one senior South Korean official summarized, he said, "This is about respect. Respect for our workers, respect for our partnership, and respect between nations." And with that, the aircraft's arrival was not merely the end of a journey, but the beginning of a larger reckoning in the US-South Korea alliance.